Hi everybody, welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Italian with Joe. Today we are going to talk about something that for some reason when I was a kid, I hated. Now I love them. And they're like mini cabbages or Brussels sprouts. And I think it was the way my mother cooked them. My mother would always boil them or steam them, and they were disgusting. But I'm going to teach you how to roast them. One of the things that you'll see in Italy, a common way to prepare food, is they'll roast them. And they'll usually roast them on a hot grill. They'll grill the food a lot. They also have the ovens, and they tend to retain a lot of heat, so they'll be well over 400 or 500 degrees. So it changes the flavor of a food. So I've talked about it in other videos, but when you roast something, what you're basically doing is you're cooking the sugar in the food. So if you were to take sugar and water, you put it in a pan, and you were to heat it up, you'll notice after a while it'll start to brown. When you put onions in a pan, for example, you'll notice it starts to brown. So that's the onion giving up the sugars, and when the sugars get hot, they'll actually almost like burn, barely burn. So anytime you roast a vegetable, what you're basically doing, you're going to use a high heat, and it's going to allow it to release its sugars. And oh my God, it smells absolutely phenomenal. It starts to release those sugars, totally changes the flavor of the food, and believe it or not, it can actually change the flavor of a Brussels sprout. So I went to the grocery store, we got some Brussels sprouts. I didn't prep them all, I wanted to prep a few for you. So you're gonna need some Brussels sprouts. I got here maybe about 1.5 pounds of Brussels sprouts. We're gonna use olive oil, there's a shocker, right? We've got pepper, freshly ground always. We've got some salt, and then we're going to use some garlic. So what I'm going to do is prep the Brussels sprouts. I'm going to pop them in here. I'm going to chop up some garlic. I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to coat it with oil, stir it all up. Then I'm going to put salt and pepper, stir that up. It all sticks to it. I'm going to put it on a pan, parchment paper so nothing sticks. It makes cleanup really easy, so you'll love me for that. And then we're going to cook that in the oven anywhere from 400 to 425. Now Brussels sprouts got a little bit of a depth to it, so sometimes you can start the heat off maybe at about 350 to 375 for maybe 15 minutes or so, and then crank up the heat. Let the Brussels sprout get warm, if you will. Then crank up the heat, and it'll give it a little bit better roast. So we're going to prep these. So a lot of times when you buy them at the store, you're going to see they still have the end on them, right? So you're going to cut that end off, and then sometimes you'll notice, depending on the skin of the Brussels sprout, see, sometimes you need to take that off. Sometimes you don't. So you take a look at it. If it's browned or maybe it's not looking so appealing visually, this one's got a little rough spot to it. Sometimes, again, it's nothing to really worry about, because many times what will happen is when it roasts, it's going to get brown anyway. So you're going to cut that off, and that one looks pretty darn nice. This one has a little bit of a visual. Now in the sink, as I told you earlier, I have I always put a pan in the sink just to put debris that you're going to throw out in the trash. If not, what you find is you end up going back and forth to the trash can, and that's never fun, and then you end up having a trail of debris all over the floor. So what you'll notice I'm doing is I'm cutting these off, and then anything on the outside where, hey, I can save, isn't that a beautiful little piece of skin there, right? Pop that in a side dish. I'll show you what I'm doing with it. So an idea that a friend of ours had, which I love, is you're going to save those skins on the outside, and then you're going to toast them or roast those as well, and then you can use them almost as like a flavor, like a crouton, or in place of a crouton, if you will, or use it, I guess, as a natural crouton on top of your dish. So for example, we're going to make some roasted butternut squash soup in one of our videos, because I'm roasting some butternut squash right now for a risotto recipe that I'm doing, which has butternut squash risotto with mushrooms. Oh my God, to die for, absolutely delicious. So that butternut squash is roasting, but I always make a little extra because I love butternut squash soup. So I'm going to save that. So we're going to roast these and put them right on top. So that we can save for another conversation. Then I'm going to put in the sink. So I've got all my Brussels sprouts. If you think about it, when I'm a kid, right? And now I love them. They're absolutely love them. When I have them this way, they're absolutely delicious. So here's a shocker for you. We're going to cut up some garlic, okay? So as you always hear me talk about how great garlic is, garlic's good for your stomach. It helps fight off infections. It helps settle your stomach. Helps fight off bacteria and viruses. And a good way to find a good woman, for example, is if you eat a lot of garlic and she comes up to you and says you stink, obviously that's not your girl, right? But you walk up to a woman if you've been pounding a lot of garlic and she says, "Ooh, what are you wearing? You smell good." You know, you're probably going places. I think it's a good idea. So it's something I've used in the past. It's worked very well for me. I'm just kidding. All right, so here we go. So you're gonna pop these up, right? And you know, without destroying it, you want to be firm and dedicated with that hit of the knife, because if you do that, you'll find that your job of pulling the skin off becomes very, very easy. If you don't do it that way, you know, you have to be what I would call assertive with the knife. Oh, this one's got a little baby there. It's got a little skin in between it. Those are always the difficult ones, right? So, and again, I've got that pan in the sink. It's a little tip. I try to give you little ideas here to save you time, but a little tip that my brother actually taught me. My brother went to culinary school. My brother Tony. So Joe and Tony, there's a Guinea family for you, and they taught him, you know, a whole bunch of great ideas. So my brother's a great cook, runs a restaurant, Borio's Restaurant, and that's been a restaurant that my grandfather started many years ago. And then my grandfather got ill, and my father took it over with his brother, Charlie. And I was named after my Uncle Charlie as well. So my first name's Joe, my middle name's Charles. So I was named after my dad's brother because he was ill. So, and great family, you know. My whole family, they were all in the military, in the war, and fought for our country, and so good people. So they got back and they went and helped my grandfather at the restaurant. My grandfather was a smoker, used to roll, old school Italian, used to roll his own cigarettes. He used to carry a little leather pouch on his side, and he'd roll cigarettes. And then unfortunately, you know, he got ill from smoking, and it really took a toll on him. So kind of sad, but great guy and a great cook. And he was a cook in the Army, Italian Army. They came over here. They had absolutely nothing when they arrived here in the United States. Came through Ellis Island, and it was funny when I was doing a genealogy search years ago. I looked all over the records that you could get online through Ellis Island, which is great if you ever want to do that with your family. And I couldn't find it. Could not find it. Went all over. Talked to my dad. Talked to my brother. All over, and then I talked to one of my relatives. I think it was my aunt, and she said, "Well, what are you looking under?" I said, "I can't find Gramp. You know, I know what year he came over. I think I have the boat. I look on the, you know, some of the manifests, and you're going through all that stuff." And she said, "Well, you're looking under Joseph, and your grandfather's name is Giuseppe." So that was kind of cool. So I was like, "Oh, there you go. There's the problem." So after talking to her, I think it took about 15 minutes after, and boy, didn't he pop right up. Kind of cool. Isn't that great? They keep all those records for everybody. So, all right, so we're just prepping the garlic here. So we're going to chop the garlic up. Now, sometimes I've seen people do it with the garlic. You know, they put the oil in first. In this case, with the garlic, it doesn't really matter. So, what is important is you want to put the oil in first before you put the salt and pepper on. I mean, that's more important because you want the salt and pepper to stick. And if you make it, I'm going to cut this down twice, you'll see. If you make it, if you put the salt and pepper on now, and then put the oil in after, it's all going to pool up in the bottom. So you don't want to do that. So the oil acts as like a little glue almost, right? Like an adhesive. And again, the garlic's loaded with sugars too, so the garlic's going to roast. I know I say this every time. I'll say it forever. I love the smell of garlic. I don't know why. You ever have those smells where you know, when somebody's cooking something, boy, it brings you right back to a moment in your life or a memory. And I think one of the parts I love about cooking and when I smell these odors, like, you know, my grandmother always used to treat us with Nutella. So when I smell Nutella, especially if I have that first taste of Nutella, my God, it brings me right back in my grandmother's kitchen, like instantly. It's amazing. And, you know, research shows that your memory is strongly attached to your sense of smell and memory of smell, so pretty neat. But it brings me right back there. And my grandmother always used to bring back these little square spoons. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those before. So rather than having the bottom of the spoon which was round, I'm not going to put that part in there. I don't even know what that is. It might be a Brussels sprout. But in any case, the bottom of the spoon was square, and they were little squares, and they always had a picture of Italy or some little memory token or what have you. They were so cute. So I would always have Nutella on the square spoon. She'd spread it, because you could use the spoon almost as like a spreading tool, and she would spread it on bread. She'd take Italian bread, she'd put butter on it, she'd toast it, and then she'd spread Nutella on it. Oh my God, it was so good. And we obviously still do that ourselves now, but I just remember that, to have that little spoon. She was such a wonderful lady. So here we go. So we've got Brussels sprouts and we've got garlic. I mean, that's really starting to smell good, right? So you want to use, I'm always generous with the olive oil, so you're going to use about a 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit more. And then the first thing you do before you put anything else in there is you want to stir it up. And the goal here is to stir the oil so it surrounds the Brussels sprout. I'm going to use a little bit more oil. So apparently it's a 1/4 cup plus a smidge. So we're going to use a little bit more oil. Oh, the garlic's got me opening my sinuses right now, I can tell you that. Woo! And then we've got the oven cranking at about 400 degrees. Now, like I said, a lot of times with Brussels sprouts, you want to turn the oven down a little bit. With green beans or sometimes other vegetables that are smaller, they're smaller, so there's not a lot of depth. There's not a lot of meat to them, right? So we're going to use about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, right? Maybe 3/4 teaspoon, right? And then we're going to crank some pepper, fresh ground pepper. Now that's all going to stick because it's coated with the olive oil, right? And then you're going to mix that up. Oh my God, that smells so good. I say that all the time. People call me or Facebook me or message me that I say that, but so much of your taste is your sense of smell. So when you smell that right now, it smells great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take just a flat pan, and again, we're always going to use parchment paper. And they sell some. I saw some synthetics that you could kind of reuse, but that always makes me nervous, because you start putting that synthetic plastic or something on there. I don't know. I don't trust it, so I don't want to start eating that if I can avoid it. So, okay. And then what I'm going to do is, I don't mean to block you here with the camera. So you got all that garlic left in the bottom, right? And there's some salt and pepper, obviously, in there as well. So you're going to get that all out. And I'm going to try to do this neat so they don't. The challenge with Brussels sprouts, if you overflow your plate, or in this case your tray, they're going to roll, baby, all over the floor. And then you got salt and pepper and there you go, perfect. It's a little tight on this. I was hoping it would be a little, but it'll work perfect. Okay? Oh my God, that's delicious. Isn't that great? You take olive oil with a little salt and pepper, and you dip a little bread in there. I think I'm going to do that actually in a few minutes. It sounds so good. But in any case, so there you go, right? Now we're going to pop this in the oven. I'm going to turn it down a little because I want, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I want all that to get nice and hot. And then maybe for 15 minutes, we'll leave it at high 3s. And then the last 15 minutes, you'll crank it up. It'll give you that nice roast. And then I'll pull it out, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like and what that tastes like. It's absolutely delicious, and it's so simple, and it changes the flavor, and it'll probably be the first time in your life, if you never like Brussels sprouts, so you have them, you're like, damn, those things taste pretty good, and you're going to love them. So I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes. You guys ready? All right, so we put in roasted vegetables in there. If you remember, we've got Brussels sprouts and green beans. So let me pull one of the first ones out, which will be the Brussels sprouts, which are just, look at that. Is that absolutely beautiful? And then we did it on a parchment paper, if you guys remember, right? So, and again, you can smell it. That the roast is, essentially what the roast is the carbs. Oh, look at that. They came out absolutely perfect. So what we got here is you got the green beans with roasted garlic, and you got Brussels sprouts with roasted garlic, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that. Grab one of my trusty utensils. I'm just going to bring it right across the plate. One of our good friends, John, is here with us, right, Johnny?
That's right. Hello.
Hello, Johnny.
Looking forward to this.
And then we're gonna hit our Brussels sprouts right in there. So what'll happen sometimes on these? Remember, I told you gotta watch it because these babies roll, man. There's no room for error on a Brussels sprout. So the Brussels sprouts are perfect. Look at that. And the beauty of the parchment paper is nothing sticks. Nice and hot. And some of the outside, sometimes they get a little too crunchy, so it's no problem. What you'll do is just peel that first layer off. It's absolutely beautiful. We're going to mix this right with the rest of our food here. Bon appetit. Remember, guys, sit down around the table with your family and friends. We're going to shut the cell phones off, right, Johnny?
Absolutely.
And we're going to shut the TV off. And it's about spending time with friends, having some joy of food, and opening up your heart and soul, and it's great. Bon appetit. Ciao. I'll talk to you guys in your next video.